Thunder Mesa Country sure is purty, ain't it? Heck, some call it a regular nature's wonderland. But it's full of stories and tall tales, too. And no wonder. Anyone out in that desert sun too long is bound to see all kinds of crazy things in them colorful formations. Just have a look over yonder. That there is what the Indians call Coyote Rock, and you can bet your last dollar there's a story about that, too. A long, long time ago, there lived this clever old hungry coyote named Benttail. King of the canyons he was, but he had one weakness. See, he was always a hankering after some lamb chops, and that brought him a little too close to human folk and their dogs. There was this one old sheepdog in particular that was wise to Benttail's tricks. That is, when he wasn't breaking up crooked card games. Anyhow, one day when that coyote come sneaking around trying to make off with a lamb or two, that sheepdog took off a-chasing him, up one end of the canyons and down the other, right over the tops of them balancing rocks, setting them all to swaying and tumbling and making a terrible mess of things. But when the dust finally cleared, there weren't no sign of old Benttail. Nothing but this new pile of rocks that some folks in these parts say looks mighty familiar. Well, sir, you can believe that story or not, but that's just the way that it was told to me by the Indians.
Now, that particular tall tale was inspired by a very similar story from the Walt Disney Company that came out in 1945, directed by Charles Nichols and starring none other than Pluto, also called The Legend of Coyote Rock. But the origin of the Coyote Rock legends go back much, much further than that. Coyote is often portrayed as a trickster in Native American mythology, and there are many different stories about him from different tribes throughout the American Southwest. There are Coyote Rocks in Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming, and those are just the ones I know about. Now, if you're not from around these parts, it might be tempting to believe there couldn't possibly be a real rock that looked like a coyote. But I happen to know for a verifiable fact that just across the valley here in Sedona, Arizona, there's a rock that looks an awful lot like the Coyote Rock from the Disney film. In fact, it was Sedona's Coyote Rock that finally inspired me to get out the foam and the carving tools and to create a Coyote Rock of my own for Thunder Mesa. Like many of the more complicated rock formations on the Thunder Mesa layout, Coyote Rock was carved from a chunk of polyurethane carving foam, sometimes called gold foam, just like this one. I started by sketching the shape of a howling coyote on my block of foam, going for something that was a bit more realistic than the Disney version to fit within the aesthetic of Thunder Mesa. And then it was time to start carving, using hobby knives, razor saws, and sandpaper to block in the general shape. Remember, you should never use a hot wire cutter on polyurethane foam. Now that I've got the basic shape roughed in, I can go back and start refining the details, make them more three-dimensional and less blocky, but all the while keeping in mind that what I'm trying to create here is not a carving of a coyote, but a carving of a rock that looks like a coyote. And so there's some subtle differences.
now we're getting it to the point where it's starting to look like a stack of rocks that looks like a coyote. Still need to do a lot of work on the other side, but now it's mostly just refining and getting it closer to what I want it to look like. You know, carving away all the parts that don't look like a coyote rock and leaving behind the parts that do. I've got the carving right about where I want it, and I'm just going to take a wire brush, go around and soften up the edges and add some more strata lines from erosion. So now I just want to create a little pedestal of rocks for him to be sitting on. It's kind of related over to the balancing rocks next door. And these, I just want them to look like rocks. Now I need to join these three pieces together, and I'm just going to use some long wooden toothpicks that I have and some yellow glue to do that. I want this to match the rest of the rocks in the area it's going in, so first step is to get on a coat of this medium scenic base color, and then I'll work on the final painting from there. Well, now that the base coat is dry on here, we'll back over everything with a dark wash. This is some diluted black with burnt umber mixed in, a lot of water I use on all of my scenery. There we go. And that just soaks back into all of the cracks and crevices and darkens everything up a shade. And now we let that dry. Now I can do the final scenic painting. I've got some that medium base color. I've also got some of my light scenery base color. This is latex paint that I have mixed up. And then I've got some acrylics, some burnt sienna, some burnt umber, always good scenery colors, and some unbleached titanium. And I'm just going to use a flat brush, get most of the paint off, just kind of go around and hit the high spots. Take some of that burnt sienna and mix a little bit of it with my light scenic base to make a redder earth tone. Sometimes I like to take some burnt umber and just punch up the shadows between the layers of rock. Kind of work that in there. And the final thing, doesn't take long at all, just take some of this unbleached titanium and just add some highlights. Just kind of dry brushing it along the top edges of things. Okay, now I'll go
plug it into the scene, and we'll do the final blending over there. Really wanted to have this over here near Circle D Ranch because of the Disney connection, obviously, and also the proximity to Coyote Canyon. I'm just going to use a couple of dabs of Eileen's glue, tacky glue on the bottom here. I want this to remain removable. So if I have to move the layout, delicate things like this usually get taken off. That's about the spot. Stand back and take a look. Yeah, perfect. Let me just do a little final blending here. Old Bentley. I want to thank you for joining me in that little side trip into the myths and legends of Thunder Mesa Country. I'll see you next time. Keep moving forward, everybody. Adios for now.